With Metal Gear Solid Delta being released, it had me thinking back to when I first played MGS3, when I saw the scene of Snake standing in front of a grave, giving a final salute as his eyes slowly wet with tears until one finally falls down his face. This salute is more than a farewell, but it's the weight of everything Snake's been through crashing down in silence, and at the center of it is one woman, the boss. Now most people think of Snake Eater as the story of how Naked Snake became Big Boss, the beginning of the legend in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, the first step in a fall from grace that would ripple through the entire series. And yeah, it absolutely is that. But the more you look at it, the more you start to realize Snake Eater isn't really about Snake at all. It's about the boss. The boss is one of the most complex, morally gray, and devastating characters ever written in gaming. We see her as a mentor, patriot, traitor, hero, and villain. She's the kind of character who doesn't just exist inside of her own story, but completely reframes the entire narrative around her. So today, I want to dig into why the boss might just be one of the greatest characters in gaming, and maybe the true protagonist of Snake Eater. Before we begin, I will do just a quick overview of who the boss is. In the world of Metal Gear, she is basically the template for the perfect soldier. She's the person everyone else is measured against. We see through the story of Snake Eater that Naked Snake flat out idolizes her. She trained him, raised him into the soldier he became, and he sees her as untouchable. We know she is a legendary figure with how everyone talks about her with reverence. Whether it's the enemies or allies, you get the feeling that, yeah, she's the real deal. And then of course she defects. She joins with Colonel Volgin, America's enemy, and immediately the whole world sees her as a traitor, and to Snake this is very personal. This isn't just some soldier switching sides, but it's his mentor throwing away everything she stood for. Or at least that's how it looks on the surface. So let's talk about the boss's philosophy, because on the surface it sounds very cold and almost cynical. She tells Snake over and over that soldiers are just tools and that loyalty to a nation is meaningless because nations shift, politics change, and today's ally can be tomorrow's enemy. To her, a soldier isn't supposed to fight for ideals, a soldier just obeys the mission. And hearing that, I think everyone has the thought of, wow, that's pretty bleak. It sounds like she's lost faith in everything, like she's become this jaded, disillusioned warrior who's seen too much. But this isn't really the whole story. Her final mission in Snake Eater wasn't about selfish disillusionment, but it was about self-sacrifice. The boss knew exactly what she was doing the whole time, and it was way heavier than just switching sides. Her defection to the Soviet Union wasn't betrayal, but it was the plan the entire time. The US government ordered her to pretend to defect, win Colonel Volgin's trust, and recover the philosopher's legacy, which is, in short, a massive fund of money from different countries. And to make her defection seem even more real, she gave Volgin 2 American nukes, and that really sealed the deal. But then Volgin ended up firing one of these nukes, and suddenly the whole Cold War was seconds away from spiraling into nuclear war. To avoid a disaster, the US needed a scapegoat, and they chose the boss. So the mission changed. Now the boss wasn't just pretending to defect, but she had to become the villain. She has to die as a traitor, killed by her own protege, so that the world would believe America's hands were clean. This plan is patriotism at its most brutal. She sacrificed not just her life, but her honor. She let history damn her name, knowing no one could ever know the truth. So yeah, when she tells Snake that soldiers are just tools, it sounds harsh, but it's not cynicism. It's her way of making sure Snake finishes what has to be done. She's lying to him and to herself to maintain the cover story. Her real philosophy is way more heartbreaking. A soldier's life is sacrifice. You give up your body, your happiness, your future, and even your name if the mission demands it. And she embodied that philosophy until the very end. That's why her battle with Snake isn't just a fight, it's her last lesson. She tests him, pushes him, and forces him to surpass her, because she knows that once he kills her, he's going to inherit not just her title, but her pain. She's showing him the truth of what it means to be a soldier in this world, used, discarded, and forgotten. And that lesson doesn't just break Snake, it breaks us too. Because by the time we're the ones pulling the trigger, we finally understand what she meant all along. What's wild is how the game makes both Snake and the player feel the same thing, reverence for the boss. Snake never stops respecting her. Even when she appears to betray him, he doesn't talk about her with anger, but he talks about her with sadness and confusion. He doesn't want to believe she's gone rogue because in his heart, she's still his mentor. And as players, we feel the same way. Through flashbacks, stories, and cutscenes, we're shown how much she means to Snake, and the game lets us feel it too. She's not just some villain to hate, but she's someone we admire. By the time the truth comes out, we don't want to kill her either. That's the brilliance of Kojima's storytelling here. He doesn't just build a powerful character, he makes us care about her. He forces us into Snake's shoes so completely that by the end we're mourning right alongside him. Now let's circle back to the big question I asked at the start. Is the boss actually the real protagonist of Snake Eater? I personally think there's a very strong case for it. Usually the protagonist is the character whose choices drive the story, and when you look at it that way, Snake almost feels secondary. It's the boss who kicks off the entire plot by defecting. It's her philosophy that sits at the heart of the game. It's her mission that defines the stakes, and it's her sacrifice that resolves the whole conflict. Snake definitely changes. He goes from the idealistic patriot to a disillusioned warrior, but that change only happens because of her. Without the boss, there is no big boss. And that's the thing. The entire Metal Gear saga is built on her shoulders. Snake spends the rest of his life reacting to her legacy, trying to live up to her philosophy, twisting her ideals into something new. She doesn't just shape Snake Eater, she shapes the whole series. So is the boss the greatest character in gaming? I mean, I think she does have a serious claim to the title. Think about it. She's complex, morally gray, and deeply human. She's strong enough to be mythologized, but vulnerable enough to break your heart. She embodies the contradictions of war, loyalty and betrayal, patriotism and sacrifice, life and death. But most importantly, her story doesn't just make you feel something in the moment, but it sticks with you. Years after finishing the game, I still think about the ending, and I'm sure that goes for most other people too. I still feel Snake's salute and the weight that it's carrying even today. The boss is not just great character writing, but it's something timeless. She's like a tragic hero out of literature. She's one of those rare characters who could exist outside of games and still stand tall among the greats of storytelling. But what makes her uniquely powerful as a video game character is that we, the players, are a part of her tragedy. We are not just witnesses, but we are actively a part of it. And that makes her death hit harder than anything a book or movie could do. At the end of Snake Eater, Snake salutes her grave. The world remembers the boss as a traitor. Snake remembers her as his mentor, and we, as players, remember her as something more. A soldier who gave everything, her life, her legacy, her honor, all for a mission no one would even thank her for. So is Boss the greatest character in gaming? That's for each of us to decide, but I think her story, the way it redefines what a video game character can be, the way it still resonates 20 years later, makes her a contender for the crown. Because in the end, the boss isn't just a character in a game, she is the game. And she's the kind of character who reminds us why we play them in the first place.